Can I ask you a couple of questions? What does the Fed make, or how does the Fed have more cash than China? Because that's pretty amazing. Have you noticed the size of China? It's big. How come someone else, if we're such a good bet, how come someone else besides China and the Fed isn't buying? Where's the Fed getting all of this money? You know, the money to do this. Look at the chart. How are they, what? Look at this chart. Okay, this is what's happening over in Europe. Now let me show you what's happening here in America. You know how China can give us poison dog food and we're not going to say anything about it? Because it's China and we owe them a lot of money. We're like, what poison dog food? What? Oh, my dog was old anyway. Ask yourself, what favors is the Fed getting for being the #1 customer? Remember this, the Fed is a collection of banks. Collection of banks. Oh, look at these banks. They're all failing. I wonder if they're part of the Fed. What is the collection of banks doing? They're in trouble. They're failing. So we apparently have to bail them out. When I say we, I mean, well, you, through the Treasury and the Fed, have to bail out the failing banks. Here it is. The taxpayers are sending their money into the U.S. Treasury, but we don't have enough money to bail out the banks and everything else, along with giving the T, the Y, and the R some money that they never paid. In fact, this one didn't pay anything, and this one didn't pay anything either. So, but we need to give them all money, and we don't have enough money from these 4 guys to do it. So, what do? Well, we need to borrow it. We need to borrow it from the Fed. So what we do is we say, okay, I tell you what, I'm going to give you an IOU, and we're definitely good for it. And we're going to pay interest on that. We're going to give you a note, and we'll pay you some extra money if you believe it. I mean, if you lend it to us. And the Fed says, oh, man, I just got out of the other room where we were counting our money, and I can't let you go in there and see any of it, or the gold or anything else we have, and don't ask me any questions, but you wouldn't believe the amounts of stacks of cash we have over there. I'm giddy. I've got so much money in the other room that you can't see, but it's crazy. I tell you what, because we trust you, we're going to give you a whole bunch of money, all right? And you can do whatever you want with it. And we'll take your note with a little bit of interest. That sounds fair, right? Because we believe you and you believe us. There's money back there, and I know you're good for it. So why don't we just make this exchange? Oh, but one more thing. The banks are kind of failing, and we think the #1 priority should be the banks that are failing. Oh. Well, of course, says the U.S. Treasury, our good buddy, the Fed. You're helping us out. Why don't we go ahead and pay all of your banks over here some money? Okay? All right. So let's see if I have this right. The corporate office, the Fed, the corporate office of we can't keep our doors open, Inc., is loaning money to us so we can give it to them. What? I'm not sure. They give us money that they can print, and they give it to the Treasury, and then we give it to them. And we give it to them in TARP and bailouts and spread it around to their diseased banks that are run by and owned by the Fed. Huh. Boy, that sounds like something we should look into, doesn't it? But we can't, of course. We can't, because they're busy in the other room right now. They got so much money, you can't even imagine how much money they have. We can't even find out who owns the Fed. No. Who has the most influence with them? No. It's not interesting anyway. It would bore you. You're little people. Don't worry about it. Timothy Geithner says, there's a basic perception problem. Yes. It might be that the public perceives the fact that the bankers, like Obama's buddy, Jamie Dimon, who is one of these banks, JP Morgan, also sits on the board of the Fed. Gee, you think? I mean, it sounds like something that we should watch closely, don't you think? I mean, it'd be interesting. It'd make a great episode of, I don't know, like Dallas or some one of those old shows, you know. But we can't do that. We can't audit their books either. This is not interesting to you. It's not. It's boring. Let's just say we did, and you found out that the Fed was bailing out banks that they themselves own through us, kind of a money laundering system. That'd be kind of a conflict of interest, right? I mean, it kind of bother you. But it doesn't matter, does it? Does it matter anymore? No, of course not. Of course not. And let me ask you this. Who's the bigger liar here? The Fed saying that they have the money to loan us? Or the government saying, we're going to pay you back? What? The rating bureau Fitch says the United States risks another credit rating downgrade next year, and our outlook remains negative. Hang on just a second. Could I just go over this one more time with you? We need money, and so the Fed buys an IOU, a bond, from us. Well, they buy a note with a note saying, this is good, this is really good, this is good as gold. I know. And we say, we're as good as the full faith and credit of the United States government. Okay, so we're scamming each other here. Then we take the borrowed money and the bailout failed banks, and we give it to the bailout, the failed banks, and we bail them out. That's the Fed. We bail them. So can I ask this one question? Why doesn't the private corporation, the Fed, give its own dollars to its own banks directly? Why do they need the middleman? Why do we trust them and why do they trust us? I'll tell you, I don't trust them. And I don't think you do either. Whatever their intent was, they're destroying us. I'd kind of like to know what the heck is going on behind closed doors over at the Fed and the Treasury, wouldn't you? I mean, sure, they've been around for 98 years. They're like old-timey lemonade, you know, sitting there in the rocking chair. Yeah, I remember when I screwed the American public. Supposedly, they were created to prevent economic crashes like the one we're going through. Except that doesn't work, because crashes like what we're going through, it's a force of nature. It happens. It's like trying to stop winter. You can't. What do you say we ask for permission to look under the hood? The Fed, as I see it, is like the ultimate illegal immigrant. They're buying houses and cars and using hospitals, sending their kids to public school. All the while, they haven't shown us any paperwork at all. And we can't ask about the paperwork or we're in trouble. We're bad people. Think of all the paperwork that you have to fill out when you have to buy a home. It's like a Ken Burns script. It just goes on and on and on. They can ask you everything under the sun. But the Fed? No, skip that. They're good for it. They're good for it. I think they're laundering money to themselves. This is a scam in Europe. This is a scam here. It doesn't work. My guess is that the Fed and the Treasury are doing something that you and I couldn't get away with. They're writing bad checks, and they all know it. They're all writing checks for money that isn't there. And on top of it, if our money is there and we do have to pay them back, we have to pay them back with interest. So we're paying them for the privilege of bailing them out. How is this not criminal? Seriously. Quantitative easing. Bullcrap. Prison time. There have been 7 government bailouts funded by you since 2008. They've carried a combined price tag of almost $2 trillion. What have you gotten out of it? Who's made money here? Because I haven't. Have you? Spain is the 5th bailout in Europe, and this one, just over the weekend, cost $125 billion. To give you some perspective, that means the average worker with a salary of $42,000 a year would have to work 3 million years to pay that back. Look at it another way. Every single worker in the city of Chicago would have to combine their yearly salary and pay it to Spain to cover the cost. And it was gone overnight. It's a failure with no chance of working. Why? Because you can't stop winter from coming. You're kicking the can down the road, and you're uprooting all of the trees, and you're going to kill all the trees. Spending to solve a problem doesn't work, especially when you're going further into debt, much, much bigger debt in the process. Everywhere on TV, everybody's promising that this is going to work. If you come across anyone in your own personal life who says, this is going to work, ask them this question. For who? Who does it work for? The average Joe or the average Federal Reserve Bank? The Federal Reserve System is a scam. The perception problem exists because it's so obviously a real problem. 1, we're not allowed to see who owns the Fed. 2, we're not allowed to audit it. 3, they're now our biggest lender. 4, I believe they're the biggest receiver of all of our federal bailout funds as well. Something's not right. Sounds like a scam.